Chuck Berry, Little Richard. Never was a big fan of Elvis, really, except for like his early records like Hound Dog, the hard ones, you know.
In the smoke-filled bars of Detroit's rock scene lurked a blue-collar perfectionist with a voice as gritty as Motor City Steel. Bob Seger, the heartland hero behind anthems like Old Time Rock and Roll and Night Moves, wasn't just a working-class champion who transformed Midwest struggles into stadium-shaking rock symphonies. He was also a notoriously difficult artist whose uncompromising vision reportedly rubbed several music legends the wrong way. Welcome to another episode of Offstage Tales, where today we're pulling back the curtain on Bob Seger and the 6 major artists who allegedly couldn't stand working with or even being around the Silver Bullet Band frontman.
Writing's so mysterious. I do it all different kinds of ways. Sometimes I'll start with a title, but most of the times lately I'll start with music.
The Detroit rocker who gave us classics like Against the Wind and We've Got Tonight was infamous in industry circles for his perfectionist tendencies and stubborn creative control. If it ain't real, it ain't worth doing, Seger supposedly told Cream magazine back in 1978. I don't care if you're Mick Jagger or Bruce Springsteen, respect the music or get out of my studio. And apparently quite a few A-list musicians found themselves in that latter category. From explosive backstage blowouts to career-damaging snubs, Seger's relationships with these artists reveal not just personal animosity, but deeper conflicts about authenticity versus commercialism in rock music. Some of these feuds played out in public, others simmered behind closed studio doors, but all of them left lasting scars on the industry. 6. Ted Nugent. Coming in at number 6 on our countdown is a name that might shock you, Ted Nugent. Yes, the Motor City madman himself reportedly had major beef with his fellow Detroit rocker Bob Seger, despite both men calling the same city home. The rivalry allegedly started in the early 70s when both musicians were fighting for control of Detroit's rock scene. According to music writer Dave Marsh, Nugent told people at local clubs, "Seger's gone soft. Real rock and roll doesn't need pretty melodies and love songs." The comment supposedly made its way back to Seger, who wasn't happy about it.
I felt like I had to write a song, let's try to have capitalism with a conscience, you know?
What really bothered Nugent wasn't just Seger's music, but his massive commercial success. While Nugent was playing raw, aggressive rock that stayed underground for years, Seger was scoring huge radio hits with songs like Ramblin' Gamblin' Man and Heavy Music. Nugent reportedly called this selling out to the suits. There's guys who start with real rock and roll, then water it down for the masses, Nugent allegedly told Cream magazine in 1974, without naming Seger directly. But Detroit insiders knew exactly who he meant. The two crossed paths at several Detroit venues in the mid-70s, and witnesses claim they barely acknowledged each other. At one Cobo Hall show, Nugent reportedly told his roadies, "Some people forget where they came from." Seger never publicly responded to Nugent's comments, but friends say the criticism stung. After all, both men were just trying to put Detroit rock on the map. They just had very different ideas about how to do it. 5. Glenn Frey. At number 5, we have Glenn Frey from the Eagles. This musical rivalry is particularly bitter because it involved 2 Detroit natives who should have been hometown heroes supporting each other instead of fighting over territory. Someone's gonna cry when they know they've lost you. Their paths first crossed in the early 70s, when both were trying to make it big. According to music producer Bill Shimchick, Frey allegedly dismissed Seger's early work saying, "He's got the voice but none of the vision. Detroit rock is going nowhere." The comment reportedly got back to Seger through mutual friends.
And I remember looking at Glenn when it was over, and I said, "Are we out of a job?"
What made Frey's alleged dislike particularly painful was that both men were chasing the same sound, that perfect blend of rock and heartland storytelling. Yet Frey reportedly saw Seger as a regional act who would never break nationally. "Some guys are born to play small venues their whole lives," Frey reportedly told a Rolling Stone writer in 1975, in what many interpreted as a dig at Seger's struggle to break out of the Midwest market. The tension got worse when Seger finally hit it big with Live Bullet in 1976. According to multiple industry sources, Frey was bitter that Seger's raw, less polished sound was suddenly getting the attention that the Eagles had worked years to achieve. Yet there were moments of grudging respect, too. When Seger scored his first #1 hit with old-time rock and roll, Frey reportedly said, "I guess Detroit had something to say after all." Seger allegedly told his manager, "Glenn never believed in what we were doing here. He thought you had to leave Detroit to matter." For someone like Seger, who built his career on Midwest pride, Frey's early dismissal was apparently a wound that never fully healed, even after both achieved massive success. At number 4, we have John Mellencamp, the small-town rocker from Indiana. This rivalry is fascinating because both men were fighting for the exact same crown, king of American heartland rock music.
Free, yeah. Little pink houses for you and me.
Their conflict started heating up in the early 80s when Mellencamp's American Fool album exploded onto the charts. According to music journalist Robert Christgau, Mellencamp told friends at a Nashville party, "Seger's been doing this Heartland thing for years, but he never understood what it really meant."
The most humility, I say that's what happened to me. They didn't even listen to the demo tape.
What made Mellencamp's criticism sting was that both artists were painting the same picture: blue-collar America, small-town struggles, and working-class pride. Yet Mellencamp saw himself as the authentic voice while viewing Seger as someone playing a character. There's artists who live the life they sing about, and there's artists who just visited it once. Mellencamp told Musician magazine in 1983 without naming Seger directly, but industry insiders caught the reference immediately. The rivalry reached its peak during the 1985 Farm Aid concert. Multiple witnesses claim Mellencamp deliberately scheduled his set to conflict with Seger's appearance, forcing fans to choose between them. Backstage, sources say the two barely spoke. Seger seemed genuinely hurt by the competition. "I've been singing about the American dream since before it was trendy," he told his band members after a particularly harsh review that compared him unfavorably to Mellencamp. For Mellencamp, Seger represented everything wrong with corporate rock, taking real stories and packaging them for mass consumption. The irony? Both men ended up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, proving there was room for multiple voices telling America's story. 3. Don Henley. At number 3, we have Don Henley, the Eagles drummer and co-lead vocalist.
Sundance to remember. Sundance.
This feud is particularly explosive because it involved two perfectionists whose egos were apparently too big for the same recording studio. The trouble started in 1978, when both artists were working at the same Los Angeles studio complex. According to engineer Elliot Shiner, Henley walked into Seger's session uninvited and commented, "This is how you make a record when you don't care about the details." What made Henley's interference especially insulting was his reputation as a control freak who demanded endless takes. While Seger prided himself on capturing raw, live energy, Henley was famous for his meticulous studio perfectionism, a difference that created instant friction. "Some people think more production means better music," Seger reportedly told Rolling Stone in 1979, in what many interpreted as a direct shot at Henley's elaborate recording methods. The conflict exploded during a 1981 industry party when Henley publicly questioned Seger's songwriting credits. Witnesses say Seger confronted Henley directly, leading to a heated exchange that had to be broken up by security. Their different approaches to success also fueled the rivalry. Henley saw himself as an artistic visionary, while he viewed Seger as someone who stumbled into hits without understanding the craft behind them. "There's a difference between being lucky and being good," Henley reportedly told a Los Angeles Times writer in 1982, though he never mentioned Seger by name. The tension lingered for years, with both men avoiding each other at industry events. For Henley, Seger represented everything wrong with amateur rock: success without sophistication, popularity without polish. At number 2, we have the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen. This rivalry might be the most ironic on our list because both men were fighting for the title of America's blue-collar rock champion. Yet they reportedly couldn't stand each other personally. The conflict began brewing in the mid-70s when critics started comparing their working-class anthems. According to music writer Dave Marsh, Springsteen told his band members, "Seger writes about the working man like he's watching him through a window." What made Springsteen's criticism particularly harsh was the similarity of their messages.
No, just searching for lyrics that you can sing with conviction, you know?
Both sang about factory workers, small-town dreams, and American struggles. But Springsteen saw himself as the genuine article while viewing Seger as an outsider looking in. "Authenticity can't be manufactured," Springsteen told a British journalist in 1978, in what many interpreted as a dig at Seger's more polished production style. The rivalry intensified when Seger's "Against the Wind" beat Springsteen's "The River" on several year-end critics' lists. Industry sources claim Springsteen was furious that his more serious work was losing out to what he considered lightweight competition. Their camps actively avoided booking the same venues or appearing at the same festivals. When both were invited to a 1981 benefit concert, Springsteen's people reportedly insisted on top billing or they wouldn't participate. Seger seemed puzzled by the hostility. "We're both trying to tell the same stories," he told his manager after learning about Springsteen's comments. The irony runs deep. Both men became working-class heroes, but Springsteen apparently believed there was only room for one voice speaking for America's forgotten people. For the boss, Seger was an imposter wearing his crown. At number 1, we have Jackson Browne, the California singer-songwriter whose feud with Bob Seger was so personal, it reportedly destroyed a genuine friendship and nearly ended both their careers. The two men were actually close friends in the early 70s, bonding over their shared love of storytelling and acoustic guitar work. According to Browne's former manager, they spent countless hours writing together and even considered forming a supergroup. Everything changed in 1975 during the recording of Seger's breakthrough album, Beautiful Loser. Browne was supposed to produce the record, but sources say he walked out mid-session after a massive fight over creative control. Bob wanted to rock everything out, and Jackson wanted to keep it intimate, recalled session musician Waddy Wachtel. It got ugly fast. The breaking point came when Seger decided to re-record several tracks without Browne's input. Browne reportedly felt betrayed, telling friends, "He used me to get to the label, then threw me away like garbage." Their friendship turned toxic. When Browne's The Pretender became a massive hit in 1976, Seger reportedly told his band, "Some people sell their souls for success." Browne fired back in interviews, calling Seger a user who doesn't understand loyalty. The feud had real consequences. Both men avoided working with mutual friends, splitting the Los Angeles music scene into camps. Several planned collaborations fell apart because of their bitter rivalry. Years later, both men expressed regret about how things ended. But the damage was done, a genuine musical partnership destroyed by ego and ambition. So there you have it. 6 musicians who couldn't handle Bob Seger's Detroit attitude. Which feud shocked you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more rock history drama.